Ladies and gentlemen, let us begin with a fundamental truth. Time is the currency of life. The way you spend your time is the clearest expression of who you are and what you value. Squander it, and you lose not just hours or days, but pieces of yourself. Use it wisely, and you edge closer to becoming the person you could be. To understand why we waste time, we must first acknowledge a deep truth about human nature. We are drawn toward what is easy and comfortable, even if it brings us no long-term satisfaction. Pleasure, in its simplest form, is easy to achieve. It requires little effort, no struggle, and no commitment. It's always within reach, whether through a glowing screen, a quick snack, or a momentary distraction. Papasso, ilso, be, ilso, sitana, pleiosna. But meaning is something entirely different. Meaning demands sacrifice, effort, and focus. It challenges you to confront your fears, your weaknesses, and even your limitations. It requires you to stretch yourself towards something greater than the sum of your immediate desires. The problem is that many people confuse fleeting pleasure with happiness. They believe that a life of comfort and ease is a life well lived, yet they find themselves restless and dissatisfied. Why? Because pleasure is shallow. It does not fill the deeper reservoirs of the human spirit. It is momentary, while meaning endures. Meaning connects us to something larger, our values, our goals, and our potential to contribute to the world. And therein lies the crux of the issue. People waste time because they choose what is easy over what is meaningful. Think about how this manifests in everyday life. You wake up in the morning with a list of tasks you know are important. Perhaps you need to work on a project that could advance your career. Maybe there's a difficult conversation you've been putting off, or you've planned to start exercising to improve your health. These are meaningful activities, yet they demand effort. They require you to face discomfort, uncertainty, or even failure. Instead, you reach for your phone, you scroll through social media, read the news, or watch a video. These activities are effortless. They provide a quick hit of dopamine, that pleasurable chemical in your brain. But after an hour or two, or maybe the entire morning passes, you feel a sense of emptiness. You haven't accomplished anything. The things that truly matter are still waiting for you, and now you feel worse than before. You've wasted time. This is the trap of prioritizing pleasure over meaning. And it is a trap that is so easy to fall into because the tools of distraction are everywhere. Technology, for example, is designed to capture your attention and keep it. Every app, every notification, every piece of entertainment is crafted to pull you away from what matters most. It is not inherently bad to enjoy these things, but the question you must ask yourself is this: at what cost? If you are going to stop wasting time and start winning, you must train yourself to resist the lure of fleeting pleasures. This doesn't mean you should never relax or enjoy yourself. Rest is important, and life should include moments of joy and leisure. But those moments must be earned. They must come as a result of meaningful effort. When you spend your time on activities that matter, relaxation feels like a reward, not an escape. The first step in this process is to clarify what is meaningful to you. What are the values, goals, and relationships that define your life? What kind of person do you want to become? Answering these questions gives you a sense of purpose. It allows you to distinguish between activities that contribute to your growth and those that merely fill the time. Without this clarity, it is easy to drift. You may find yourself busy, but busyness is not the same as productivity. You can spend an entire day checking emails, running errands, or scrolling through social media, only to realize you've made no progress toward your goals. Once you have identified what is meaningful, you must learn to prioritize it. This means saying no to distractions and yes to challenges. It means being willing to face discomfort because the pursuit of meaning is rarely easy. There will be moments when you feel like giving up, when the temptation to escape into mindless entertainment is strong. But every time you resist that temptation, you strengthen your ability to focus. You build discipline, and discipline is the foundation of a meaningful life. It is also important to recognize that the pursuit of meaning is not always grand or dramatic. It often involves small, consistent actions. It is about showing up every day, even when you don't feel like it. It is about making progress, no matter how small, toward your goals. Over time, these small actions accumulate, creating a sense of momentum and achievement. And as you build momentum, you begin to see the rewards of your efforts. You gain confidence, skills, and a deeper understanding of yourself. There is a powerful sense of fulfillment that comes from knowing you have spent your time well. It is not the fleeting happiness of pleasure, but a deeper, more enduring satisfaction. It is the feeling of living in alignment with your values, of becoming the person you were meant to be. And that feeling cannot be bought or borrowed. It must be earned through effort and perseverance. In the end, the choice is yours. You can spend your life chasing pleasure, moving from one distraction to the next, and wondering why you feel empty, or you can choose meaning, even when it is difficult, and discover a sense of purpose that fills your days with significance. The path of meaning is not easy, but it is worth it, and it begins with a simple decision to stop wasting time and start living with intention. When it comes to achieving anything of significance, having a clear plan is essential. Goals provide structure, direction, and a sense of purpose. Without them, we are adrift, responding to whatever comes our way without any larger context or aim. Think of goals as a map. They show you where you are, where you need to go, and the steps required to get there. The challenge is not merely to set goals, but to do so in a way that balances the immediate and the long term. This dual approach, involving micro and macro goals, is what creates sustainable progress and ensures that your efforts are not wasted. Let's begin with the larger picture, your macro goals. These are the big, overarching objectives that define your life and give it meaning. They are not just about what you want to accomplish, but also about who you want to become. For example, your macro goals might include building a fulfilling career, maintaining strong relationships, or contributing something meaningful to the world. These goals often span years or even decades, and they represent your highest aspirations. The importance of macro goals cannot be overstated. Without them, it's easy to fall into the trap of aimlessness. You might stay busy with daily tasks and obligations, but without a larger framework, those activities can lack coherence. It's like running as fast as you can without knowing whether you're heading in the right direction. Macro goals provide that sense of direction. They remind you of what truly matters and help you prioritize your time and energy accordingly. However, macro goals alone are not enough. The problem with large, distant objectives is that they can feel overwhelming or abstract. It's one thing to say you want to write a book, start a business, or transform your health, but the sheer scale of such ambitions can paralyze you. This is where micro goals come into play. Micro goals are the small, actionable steps that move you closer to your larger objectives. They break the overwhelming into the manageable. For instance, if your macro goal is to write a book, your micro goals might include setting aside 1 hour each day to write, outlining a single chapter, or researching a specific topic. These small tasks are tangible and achievable, which makes them far less intimidating. Moreover, completing them gives you a sense of accomplishment, creating momentum and motivation to keep going. Progress is not always about massive leaps. It's about consistent, deliberate steps in the right direction. Micro goals are also powerful because they anchor your focus in the present. It's easy to get lost in the enormity of a macro goal and become discouraged by how far you have to go. Micro goals, on the other hand, are immediate and concrete. They allow you to concentrate on what you can do today, right now, to make progress. This sense of immediacy is crucial because it keeps you engaged and prevents procrastination. When the task in front of you feels small and achievable, you're far more likely to act on it. Another key benefit of micro and macro goals is how they complement each other. Macro goals provide the vision, while micro goals provide the execution. One without the other is incomplete. A life focused solely on macro goals can feel daunting, while a life consumed by micro goals without a larger purpose can feel hollow. The balance between the two creates a harmonious dynamic where each informs and supports the other. To integrate this dual approach into your life, you need a system. Start by clarifying your macro goals. Take time to reflect deeply on what matters most to you. Ask yourself, what do I want to accomplish in the next 5, 10, or 20 years? Who do I want to become? What legacy do I want to leave behind? These are not questions to rush through. They require thought, honesty, and even courage. Once you've identified your macro goals, write them down. There is power in putting your vision into words. It transforms abstract ideas into concrete commitments. Next, break those macro goals into micro goals. Think about the specific actions you can take in the next week, month, or year to move closer to your objectives. Be as detailed as possible. For example, if your macro goal is to improve your physical health, your micro goals might include exercising for 30 minutes a day, cooking healthy meals at home, or drinking more water. The key is to make these steps actionable, measurable, and realistic. This way you can track your progress and adjust as needed. Equally important is the habit of regular review. Life is unpredictable and your goals will inevitably evolve. Periodically revisit your macro goals to ensure they still align with your values and aspirations. At the same time, assess your micro goals to see if they are effectively supporting your larger vision. This process of review and adjustment keeps you flexible and ensures that your efforts remain aligned with your priorities. It's also worth noting that goals, both micro and macro, have a psychological impact. They create a sense of purpose and direction, which is deeply motivating. Every time you complete a micro goal, you experience a small victory that reinforces your confidence and commitment. These victories, no matter how small, accumulate over time, creating a positive feedback loop. Success builds upon success, and before you know it, you're making significant progress toward your macro goal. In conclusion, the interplay between micro and macro goals is essential for a purposeful and productive life. Macro goals provide the vision and meaning that guide your efforts, while micro goals translate that vision into actionable steps. Together, they create a system that allows you to make steady progress, stay focused, and ultimately achieve what matters most. Life is too short to wander aimlessly or to be consumed by tasks that lack meaning. By setting clear goals and balancing the immediate with the long term, you take control of your time and chart a course toward a life of fulfillment and accomplishment. Procrastination is a universal struggle, a force that prevents us from taking action even when we know exactly what we should be doing. It's the gap between intention and execution, the delay that separates our goals from reality. However, what many fail to recognize is that procrastination is not merely an issue of time management, it is a deeply moral problem. It is, at its core, a failure to live up to our potential and our responsibilities, not just to ourselves, but to others as well. To procrastinate is to waste the opportunity to become what you could be. And that waste is not a neutral act. Procrastination begins with avoidance. There is something you need to do, write that report, clean that room, make that call, but instead of tackling the task, you avoid it. Perhaps you tell yourself you're too tired, that you'll feel more motivated tomorrow, or that it's not the right time. These justifications are deceptively convincing because they feel logical in the moment, but deep down you know they are excuses. You are simply choosing comfort over responsibility, pleasure over progress, and the truth is, every time you give in to procrastination, you strengthen the habit of avoidance. It becomes easier to delay and harder to act. The question is, why do we procrastinate? At its root, procrastination often stems from fear of failure, fear of discomfort, fear of confronting our own limitations. When you sit down to write a report, for instance, you might worry that your work won't be good enough, that others will judge it harshly, or that the task will be more difficult than you can handle. This fear creates anxiety, and instead of facing that anxiety head on, you turn to distractions to escape it. These distractions, whether it's social media, television, or trivial tasks, offer a temporary sense of relief, but this relief comes at a cost. Every moment spent procrastinating is a moment lost, a moment that could have been invested in something meaningful. Time is finite, and every hour you waste is an hour you'll never get back. But the cost of procrastination goes beyond the time it steals. It erodes your confidence and self-respect. When you continually delay what needs to be done, you begin to see yourself as unreliable, as someone who cannot be trusted to follow through. This perception becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, further weakening your resolve and reinforcing the cycle of procrastination. Over time, procrastination compounds its effects. Tasks pile up, deadlines loom closer, and the pressure intensifies. What might have been manageable if tackled early becomes overwhelming. This leads to a vicious cycle. The more you procrastinate, the harder it becomes to start, and the harder it becomes to start, the more you procrastinate. This cycle creates unnecessary stress and prevents you from performing at your best. Worse still, it diminishes your potential. Each moment of inaction is a moment when you could have been learning, growing, and achieving. To procrastinate is to waste not only your time, but also your talent. To break free from procrastination, you must first acknowledge its moral dimension. It is not merely a bad habit or a personal quirk. It is a betrayal of your responsibilities and a denial of your potential. This realization should not be a source of guilt, but a call to action. You have a duty to yourself and to the world to make the most of your abilities. Your time and talents are not yours to waste. They are resources entrusted to you, and it is your job to use them wisely. The first step in overcoming procrastination is to confront the fear that underlies it. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding and why? Often, the tasks we procrastinate on are not as difficult or frightening as we imagine. The fear is in the anticipation, not the action itself. Once you begin, you'll often find that the task is more manageable than you thought. Starting is the hardest part, but once you take that first step, momentum builds and the fear diminishes. Next, you must develop systems that make procrastination harder and action easier. Break large tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. Instead of telling yourself, I need to write an entire report, start with, I'll outline the main points. This approach reduces the psychological barrier to starting and makes progress feel achievable. Use tools like deadlines, schedules, and accountability partners to keep yourself on track. External structure can help you overcome internal resistance. Discipline is another key to defeating procrastination. Discipline is not about being harsh with yourself. It's about being committed to your goals. It's about doing what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline grows with practice. Each time you resist the urge to procrastinate and take action instead, you strengthen your ability to do so in the future. Over time, this discipline becomes a habit, and action becomes your default response. It's also important to recognize that perfectionism is a major driver of procrastination. Many people delay tasks because they fear their work won't be perfect. But perfection is an impossible standard, and striving for it only paralyzes you. Instead of aiming for perfection, aim for progress. Allow yourself to produce imperfect work, knowing that you can revise and improve it later. Action leads to improvement, while inaction leads nowhere. Finally, remind yourself of the long-term consequences of procrastination. Visualize the life you want to build and the person you want to become. Every time you procrastinate, you move further away from that vision. But every time you take action, no matter how small, you move closer. This perspective helps you see procrastination not as a minor inconvenience, but as a barrier to your growth and success. In the end, procrastination is a choice, and so is action. You have the power to decide how you spend your time and what kind of life you build. By confronting procrastination as the moral issue it is, by facing your fears and taking consistent action, you can break free from its grip. The path is not easy, but it is worth it. Each step forward is a step toward fulfilling your potential, and that is a responsibility you cannot afford to ignore. The people you surround yourself with have a profound influence on your life, often more than you realize. Humans are social creatures, and much of what we think, feel, and do is shaped by those in our immediate environment. Your habits, attitudes, and even your aspirations are subtly but powerfully affected by the company you keep. This is why choosing your relationships wisely is not just a matter of preference, it's a matter of responsibility, both to yourself and to your potential. The people around you either pull you forward or hold you back, and the difference can determine the trajectory of your life. Take a moment to reflect on the individuals you spend the most time with. These are the people whose opinions you hear, whose behavior you observe, and whose energy you absorb daily. If you are surrounded by individuals who are negative, unmotivated, or aimless, it becomes all too easy to adopt their mindset. You may start to downplay your goals, lower your standards, or justify complacency because everyone else is doing it. This phenomenon is often unconscious, but it is no less real. Your environment normalizes certain behaviors and attitudes, and you, as a social being, are inclined to conform to those norms. On the other hand, if you surround yourself with people who are driven, disciplined, and thoughtful, their qualities begin to influence you in the same way. You are inspired by their work ethic, challenged by their ideas, and motivated by their example. They hold you to a higher standard, not through criticism or judgment, but through the simple fact of their own commitment to excellence. In their presence, you feel an unspoken encouragement to step up, to do better, and to aim higher. Their energy becomes a source of momentum that propels you forward. This is why the quality of your relationships is so critical. The right people elevate you. They challenge you to grow, support you in your struggles, and celebrate your victories. The wrong people, however, can drain your energy, undermine your confidence, and sabotage your progress. Recognizing this distinction requires a level of self-awareness and honesty. You must be willing to assess your relationships critically and ask yourself, is this person contributing to my growth or hindering it? Do they bring out my best qualities or do they reinforce my worst tendencies? It's not an easy question to answer because relationships are often tangled with emotions, history, and social obligations. You might feel guilty for distancing yourself from someone who has been a part of your life for years, or you might fear being alone if you let go of certain relationships. But the truth is, clinging to toxic or unproductive relationships does far more harm than good. It keeps you stuck in patterns that are incompatible with your goals and potential. Letting go of such relationships is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of self-preservation and growth. Equally important is the deliberate cultivation of positive relationships. These relationships don't happen by chance. They require effort, intention, and reciprocity. You must seek out people who embody the values you admire and who are striving for goals that align with your own. This doesn't mean finding perfect people. They don't exist. It means finding individuals who are committed to growth, who are willing to learn from their mistakes, and who are supportive of your journey. These are the people who will encourage you to stay focused, remind you of your purpose, and celebrate your progress. Once you've identified these individuals, you must invest in those relationships. Strong, positive connections don't happen overnight. They are built through shared experiences, open communication, and mutual support. Be the kind of friend, colleague, or partner you want to attract. Show up for others, listen to them, and offer your encouragement and perspective. Relationships are a two-way street, and the effort you put in will often determine the quality of the connection you receive in return. Another critical aspect of building a supportive network is recognizing the value of diversity, not just in terms of background or experience, but in terms of perspective. Surrounding yourself with people who think differently from you can be immensely beneficial. It challenges your assumptions, broadens your understanding, and helps you see problems and opportunities in new ways. Diversity in thought fosters creativity, innovation, and resilience. It's not always comfortable, but it's almost always valuable. It's also important to note that a supportive network is not about quantity, but quality. You don't need a large circle of acquaintances to succeed. In fact, too many shallow connections can be distracting and unfulfilling. What you need are a few strong, meaningful relationships with people who genuinely care about your well-being and success. These are the relationships that will sustain you through challenges and amplify your achievements. In addition to choosing your relationships wisely, you must also set boundaries. Even positive relationships can become draining if they lack balance or respect. Be clear about your limits, communicate them kindly but firmly, and don't be afraid to enforce them. Boundaries protect your time, energy, and mental health, allowing you to invest in relationships that truly matter without being overwhelmed. Lastly, remember that the people you surround yourself with are not just a reflection of who you are, they are also a preview of who you are becoming. If you spend your time with people who inspire and challenge you, you are likely to grow into someone who inspires and challenges others. If you surround yourself with people who are stagnant or negative, you risk becoming the same. This is not a passive process. It is an active choice you must make every day. In the end, the quality of your relationships will largely determine the quality of your life. Choose wisely, invest intentionally, and prioritize connections that align with your goals and values. The right people will not only support you on your journey, but also make the journey itself more meaningful and fulfilling. And as you grow, you'll find that the relationships you've nurtured are among the most rewarding achievements of all. Success, no matter how it's defined, demands consistency. It's not the result of a single extraordinary act, but the accumulation of small, deliberate actions repeated over time. Consistency builds trust, discipline, and momentum, which are all essential to achieving meaningful progress. However, consistency isn't easy to maintain. It requires effort, commitment, and the willingness to persevere through challenges, boredom, and setbacks. And yet, the power of consistent action is unparalleled. It is the foundation upon which any significant accomplishment is built. At its core, consistency is about aligning your actions with your goals, day after day, regardless of how you feel in the moment. Many people start with enthusiasm, brimming with motivation as they set their sights on a new goal. But motivation is fleeting. It's there at the beginning, making everything seem exciting and possible, but it quickly fades when the novelty wears off or obstacles arise. This is where most people falter. They mistake a lack of motivation for a reason to stop. They wait for inspiration to strike again, but in doing so, they lose momentum and eventually abandon their goals altogether. Consistency, however, is not dependent on motivation. It is rooted in discipline. Discipline is what drives you to take action even when you don't feel like it. It's what keeps you working toward your goals when the initial excitement has worn off and the grind of daily effort begins to set in. Discipline requires you to show up every day, not for the sake of perfection, but each small, deliberate action you take compounds over time, creating results that far exceed the sum of their parts. The compound effect of consistency is one of its most powerful aspects. When you repeat an action over and over, no matter how small, the results accumulate. Think of it like planting seeds. Each small act is a seed you plant, and over time, with care and attention, those seeds grow into something much larger. Writing a single paragraph every day may not seem like much, but over the course of a year, it becomes a book. Exercising for 30 minutes each day may feel insignificant, but it can transform your health over months or years. The key is to focus on the process rather than the immediate outcome. Trust that the small, consistent actions you take today will lead to meaningful results in the future. But consistency is not just about doing the same thing over and over without thought or adjustment. It also involves self-awareness and adaptability. As you work toward your goals, you will inevitably encounter challenges, setbacks, and moments when your initial plan no longer works. Consistency doesn't mean rigidly sticking to a failing strategy. It means showing up every day and being willing to reassess, adjust, and refine your approach as needed. It's a balance between persistence and flexibility, between staying committed to your goal and being open to new ways of achieving it. One of the biggest obstacles to consistency is the tendency to focus too much on short-term results. When you don't see immediate progress, it's easy to feel discouraged and question whether your efforts are worth it. But meaningful achievements often take time, and the results are rarely visible in the early stages. It's like climbing a mountain. At first, all you see are the steps ahead of you, and the summit seems impossibly far away. But if you keep climbing, one step at a time, you eventually look back and realize how far you've come. This is why patience is a critical component of consistency. You must trust the process even when the results are not yet apparent. Another barrier to consistency is perfectionism. Many people hesitate to take action unless they're sure they can do it perfectly. But perfection is an illusion, and the pursuit of it often leads to paralysis. Instead of waiting for the perfect conditions or trying to execute every task flawlessly, focus on simply showing up and doing your best in the moment. Progress, no matter how imperfect, is always better than inaction. Remember, it's better to be consistently good than occasionally perfect. Building consistency also requires setting realistic expectations. If you aim for too much too soon, you're likely to burn out or become overwhelmed. Start with small, manageable actions that you can sustain over the long term. For example, if you're trying to establish a fitness routine, begin with 10 minutes of exercise a day rather than an hour. As you build the habit and gain confidence, you can gradually increase the intensity or duration. The key is to create a system that allows you to succeed consistently rather than setting yourself up for failure by taking on too much at once. Accountability is another important factor in maintaining consistency. When you have someone to report to, whether it's a mentor, a friend, or even a journal, you're more likely to stay on track. Accountability creates a sense of responsibility and reinforces your commitment to your goals. It also provides support and encouragement during moments when your motivation wanes or obstacles arise. If possible, surround yourself with people who value consistency and can inspire you through their own actions. Finally, consistency is about building habits. Habits are the building blocks of our daily lives, and they shape who we are and what we achieve. By creating positive habits, you automate the behaviors that lead to success, making it easier to stay consistent over time. For example, if you establish a habit of waking up early and dedicating the first hour of your day to focused work, you eliminate the need to rely on willpower to get started. Habits reduce decision fatigue and make consistency feel natural rather than forced. In the end, consistency is a choice. It's the choice to show up every day, to take small but meaningful actions, and to trust that those actions will lead to the results you desire. It's not about being perfect or achieving instant success. It's about committing to the process and persevering through the highs and lows. Consistency is what separates those who merely dream from those who achieve. It's what turns potential into reality and transforms ordinary efforts into extraordinary outcomes. In conclusion, if you wish to stop wasting time and start winning in life, you must embrace responsibility with unflinching resolve, confront procrastination as the moral enemy it is, carefully choose the company you keep, and harness the power of small, consistent actions to propel you forward. Each of these principles is a cornerstone of a meaningful and productive life, a foundation for achieving not only your goals, but also your potential. Life is not a series of isolated moments, but an interconnected journey where every decision compounds over time. The time you waste, the relationships you neglect, and the actions you postpone are not just fleeting errors, they shape who you are becoming. But the same is true of effort, discipline, and intentionality. Each moment you act with purpose and clarity builds a life that aligns with your values and aspirations. The truth is, the path to success is rarely easy. It demands effort, sacrifice, and resilience. It requires you to step out of your comfort zone, to confront your fears, and to hold yourself to a higher standard. But it is precisely through this struggle that you grow stronger, wiser, and more capable. Success is not a gift handed to you. It is a reward earned through consistent, deliberate action over time. So, take responsibility for your life. Make a plan and act on it. Surround yourself with people who inspire you and challenge you to grow. Break free from procrastination and the excuses that hold you back. And most importantly, commit to the small, steady steps that lead to great achievements. By doing so, you won't just stop wasting time, you'll build a life that is worthy of the time you've been given. And that, in the end, is how you truly win.